While the world of TikTokers may seem like one of glam and glitz with fans at their feet, some TikTokers have proven to be so horrible, it's any wonder if they have any fans left. Enter Nicola Priest and Kaylee Jade Priest. This mother-daughter duo amassed a number of followers on the popular platform, all from their cutesy videos, but this was all a facade. Behind the scenes, Nicola Priest was like any other Gen Z, almost. She liked to take selfies and capture moments with her 3-year-old daughter, Kaylee Jade, who she had at the young age of 20. Nicola liked to post now-deleted videos of her and Kaylee dancing, and while they may have put on an appearance of merriment, that was barely the case in July of 2020, when first responders found Kaylee unresponsive in Nicola's apartment. Shortly after, Kaylee was pronounced dead. She had died from serious chest and abdominal injuries. Investigations soon opened up a can of worms in this seemingly perfect family. For one, Kaylee had an older male figure in her life, Callum Redfern. It would be a stretch to call Callum a father figure because of how he treated Kaylee. Callum was Nicola's boyfriend, but it's unlikely that he was Kaylee's biological father. Besides their relationship, Callum and Nicola had one more thing in common. They really hated Kaylee. Don't believe it? Listen to some of the text messages shared between the duo on the 24th of July, 2020. Nicola, I'm going to kill her because she keeps leaving the living room going to the kitchen. So I've paled or hit her one and also smacked her for shitting in her nappy. Callum, good, give her one for me. Nicola, I will, babe. Does that sound like parents who genuinely care for their wards? The couple will eventually cause Kaylee's death only a few days after the text exchange, talking about killing her. Here's how it went down. Surveillance footage shows mom Nicola Priest and Kaylee taking the lift together in the apartment building where they lived and walking outside on August 8, 2020. Although Nicola pays little attention to her daughter, there seems to be little going on. A few hours later, she and Callum Redfern, her lover, would seriously assault Kaylee. At 7 p.m., they put Kaylee Jade to bed in what the neighbors described as a dirty apartment. However, Kaylee won't just go to sleep, instead choosing to play. Kaylee Jade starts crying. Later in this video, the reason for her tears will become clear. But one thing is clear. Kaylee's screams eventually pushed the couple over the edge, performing the deed. That night, the couple were down to performing the deed, but Kaylee won't just go to sleep. It's still unclear who led the charge, but either Nicola or Callum, or the both of them, descended on Kaylee and began inflicting blows on her so much that experts liken Kaylee's injuries to one that can be sustained by a child getting hit by a moving car, or even falling from a 3-story building onto concrete floors. But this wasn't the first time the couple physically assaulted Kaylee. In fact, there was a long history of this abuse. Neighbors have claimed to have heard loud bangs from the apartment, after which Kaylee's cries would be heard, or perhaps loud music to drown out Kaylee's crying. The post-mortem report lists as many as 68 new and old injuries, including a broken leg, sternum, and multiple broken ribs. And then, before she was taken into custody for Kaylee's death, Nicola, who seemed to have a pathological need for attention, would post videos reminiscing about Kaylee just after her death, with captions like, "I love you so much, darling. Mommy will never forget you, ever." It gets weirder when you learn that Nicola then made a video lip-syncing to the song "To My Parents" by Anna Clendening. Bear in mind that this was after she played an active role in her child's death. They wanted to physically silence the child, and they succeeded. However, she will never cease to be silent. Here's a detail that makes the story even more bizarre. The severe abuses inflicted on her in the fatal night caused Kaylee to vomit, leading her to cry in order to be let out of her room. In court, Nicola and Callum attempted to shift the blame for Kaylee's death onto each other. Ultimately, they weren't found guilty of murder, but were convicted of manslaughter. According to the jury, Nicola also committed cruelty to a child due to the older injuries. Nicola received a 15-year prison sentence, while Callum got 1 year less since he wasn't found guilty of cruelty to a child. Both must serve at least 2/3 of their sentences. The only one who received a life sentence is Kaylee Jade Priest. If you think this was sick, here's another terrible tale whose case had actively unfolded on TikTok itself. This is the story of Zachary Latham. Like most teens, Zachary liked certain things: fast cars and attention. While living with his grandparents in the neighborhood of Vineland, New Jersey, Zachary had what other teens coveted: an actual Corvette. But Zachary's Corvette, sooner rather than later, became a major problem for him. Sure, Zachary was able to amass a number of followers due to his antics, but his constant speeding through the neighborhood and the loudness of his car put him in headlocks with his neighbors, the Durhams. Soon after, Zachary and the Durhams were back at each other's throats after Zachary made a video of his encounter with the Durham matriarch, who he dubbed a Karen. This proved to be his most popular TikTok, amassing over 3 million views. Zachary's increasing followers egged him on and encouraged him to slash the tires of the Durham's car. Things took a turn for the worse after Zachary almost hit the youngest Durham son with his car. Catherine, the family matriarch, confronted Zachary for this incident, and during the altercation, he pushed her. Finally, the whole family, including the patriarch William, came to confront Zachary. Meanwhile, all of this was captured on video by Zachary's spouse named Sarah Latham. During the brawl, Zachary, who had armed himself with a knife and a stun gun, fatally stabbed William 3 times. One of the last images on Sarah's camera is of William Durham covered in blood walking out of the garage. He sustained 3 stab wounds to his right forearm, right armpit, and mid-back. William was later pronounced dead at 7:48 p.m. after being urgently taken to the hospital. However, it becomes even more insane when you hear how the legal proceedings unfolded. Zachary Latham claimed he acted in self-defense and out of fear for his safety, family, and friends. He was later charged with reckless second-degree murder, aggravated assault, and weapons offenses. The potential sentence ranged from 5 to 10 years in prison, along with a $150,000 fine. Additionally, he was instructed to leave New Jersey, leading to his relocation to Florida while awaiting trial. In 2021, a request to revoke his release was filed due to his behavior. Latham posted more videos about the incident after referring to himself as a police killer. Prosecutors alleged that he orchestrated the entire scenario to gain fame on TikTok. Before the request could be addressed, Latham was, however, arrested in Fort Myers, Florida. This arrest was related to an incident where he allegedly threatened a 17-year-old driver with a rifle resembling an AK-47 assault weapon. This occurred after a confrontation in which Latham reportedly attempted to collide with the victim's vehicle, as detailed in a report by an officer from the Florida Highway Patrol. He was also charged in another jurisdiction for accusations of sexual abuse. On April 13, 2023, the verdict was delivered, and the jury declared Zachary not guilty. They refused to consider any evidence against the defendant, agreeing with his attorney's self-defense argument. Despite the acquittal, Latham is currently incarcerated in Lee County, Florida, awaiting trial for other charges such as violating restraining orders, stalking, and assault. If you're disgusted by Zachary, wait until you hear Ali Abulaban's case, because what about murder charges? That's right, you are about to learn about one particular TikToker who killed someone dear to them.
Get up. Talk to me. I'll bring you to San Diego for what? So you can run to your friends?
This is the story of Ali and Anna Abulaban, the TikTokers whose love story went sour. Ali and Anna had started out as a TikTok power couple. Even though they ran separate accounts as opposed to running one together as a couple, they occasionally featured in each other's TikTok videos. Ali, going by the name Jin Kid, ran the more successful account, which amassed a massive 948,000 followers before it was shut down. On the outside, the Abulabans were the perfect TikTok couple, posting videos of themselves dancing or performing celebrity impressions. In fact, Ali, or Jin Kid if you may, had gotten famous by making impressions of NPCs from the video game Skyrim. He would expand into making impressions about celebrities like Al Pacino and particularly 6ix9ine. But Ali, a self-described comedian, barely made people behind the scenes laugh. He had quite the temper actually, so much that Anna had kicked him out of the house and was in the process of filing for divorce, citing domestic abuse. Though it was agreed that Abulaban would move out of their apartment, prosecutors allege he secretly made a copy of the apartment key. 3 days after being evicted, on October 21st, Ali came back to the apartment in the luxurious Spire San Diego complex. He entered using a copied key when there was no one around and proceeded to vandalize it in a fit of rage. Just before leaving, he installed an app on his 5-year-old daughter's iPad, allowing him to eavesdrop on conversations within the house. Anna returned to the house sometime later with a friend, Baron Rayburn. Ali, who was listening in on the conversation between Anna and Baron, got incensed and went back to the apartment where he shot Anna and Rayburn, killing them on the spot before fleeing the scene. After killing her mother, Ali then went to pick up the couple's 5-year-old daughter from school, telling her he had hurt her mother. Afterwards, he called his mother to confess to the crime before calling the police later on. To be precise, he called the police around 3:10 p.m. October 21st, and they found both victims dead on a couch in the living room of the Abulabin's 35th floor unit. As the narrative unfolds, the chilling question lingers. Could this tragedy have been averted? The harrowing details preceding the incident present a haunting tale of signals and unaddressed warnings. Just listen to the following. A man and woman residing across from the Abulabins separately testified that about a month before the shooting, Anna Abulabin had knocked on their door, urgently asking them to call the police, alleging that her husband had assaulted her. They recounted her plea to use their phone, claiming the suspect had taken hers. They also asserted that the police had been summoned to the Abulabins unit multiple times in the months leading up to the shooting. Sergeant Christopher Leahy testified that since July 2021, there were 9 previous calls for assistance to the couple's apartment. Yet Abulabin wasn't arrested in connection with any of these incidents. Adding another layer of complexity, one of Anna's friends informed the police that she intended to obtain a restraining order against the accused, although ultimately no restraining order was filed, as revealed in the testimony. And despite confessing to both his mother and daughter, Ali pleaded not guilty on 2 counts of murder in court. That is because if tried and convicted for murder, he may possibly face the death penalty. Speaking of TikTokers with precarious legal battles, the story of Sam Haskell IV comes to mind. Sam is the rare intersection of TikToker and Hollywood power. Born to a prominent Hollywood producer, his father, also named Sam Haskell, was first an agent at one of Hollywood's leading agencies, where he would then go on to represent the likes of Dolly Parton, George Clooney, and even Whoopi Goldberg. This was before older Sam Haskell founded his own production company. Growing up in this fame-adjacent life, younger Sam Haskell didn't actively seek fame, if you don't count the occasional post here and there. Instead, Sam settled for a seemingly normal life. He married his wife, Mai Haskell, at an early age, and they lived together with their 3 children and Mai's parents. While they may have seemed normal on the outside, a mere scratch on the surface showed everything was not okay.
For me to be told no repeatedly, like my resume says, unhappy, bitter.
Sam was obsessed with weapons and violence. He was also resentful that he couldn't match the success of his father.
I decided to just spend less money, and to do that, I'm just gonna stop buying water at Erewhon.
Meanwhile, his wife Mai had wanted a divorce for years, but fearing that Sam's father's influence would prevent her from getting custody of her children, she stuck around. Then, suddenly, she was nowhere to be found, and neither were her parents. On the 7th of November 2023, 3 Spanish-speaking laborers went to report their findings to the police. They had been contacted by a man to dispose of some rocks. He was paying them $500 for the job. However, upon lifting the trash bags they were to dispose of, it didn't feel like rocks. After driving a few blocks away, they inspected the bags and found human parts. They quickly drove back to the man's house to return the bags and money. The man who hired them reassured them that the body parts were only Halloween props, but the laborers refused the job. They went to report the incident, first at 2 police stations, but they were turned back because they couldn't speak English. Finally, they called 911. When the police arrived at Sam's house, the trash bags were no longer on the front porch, where the laborers had left them, and due to the police having no probable cause, the house was not searched. The next day, miles away from where the family lived, a homeless man found a human torso in the dumpster of a parking lot. CCTV footage from the scene led the police to Sam. Sam's house was promptly searched and police found evidence of murder. The human torso was only confidently identified months later as Mai, Sam's wife. Her parents, who were living with the couple, are yet to be found, but police believe Mai's parents had suffered similar fates to hers with their bodies disposed of. No reason has been put forward yet as to why Sam allegedly murdered his wife and her parents. However, Sam is currently awaiting trial, but if found guilty, he may face the death penalty, just like Ali Abulabin. While Haskell may have actively committed his murders, this next TikToker was just an accomplice, or more. Judge for yourself. On the outside, Kathy Vu was like any other girly girl influencer. She was very interested in pastels, the color pink, and also Hello Kitty. So much so that she had an actual kitten that could dub for a live-action Hello Kitty. On TikTok, Kathy liked to post about home decor and working out. But most importantly, she liked to post inspirational content about her man, who was named Polly Fawn, someone who will later play a pivotal role in ruining Kathy's life. While it's not clear how Kathy met Polly, one thing was very clear. They were both each other's ride or die. Polly, in fact, was used to showering Kathy with constant gifts. The issue was that Polly and his friend Jaden Najayan were into drugs. Legal marijuana, just to be clear, but they were constantly getting involved with nefarious characters. Somehow, both Polly and Jaden had gotten involved with two business partners, 37-year-old James Gerald Martin III and 35-year-old Dana Rysdahl, both of whom Polly and his friend owed up to $40,000. On January 27, 2023, police were called to a house to perform a welfare check on Gerald Martin's residence after a neighbor complained that a Prius parked in Martin's garage had been running all night and there was blood visible from even outside the house. Police found Dana's body first, along with several cardboard boxes containing marijuana in airtight plastic wrapping. Initially, the police thought Dana had been robbed, but they soon discovered that he ran a legal marijuana grow operation in Oregon with a business partner. When the police discovered the car, which was running in the garage, they found the body of Dana's business partner, James Gerald Martin III. Paramedics determined that they had died from multiple gunshot wounds, and it was an extremely bloody scene. The police had a case on their hands. Through the surveillance tapes, it was determined that both Polly and Jaden had been with the victims that evening, but they were nowhere to be found. Authorities would later find that the duo had escaped to Vietnam soon after the murders happened. But where does Kathy come into all this? After all, her boyfriend, and not her, was the culprit in the murder. Well, police investigations found that Kathy had been aware before and after the murders took place. She had been in constant communication with Polly during the incident. Police found that she had purchased trash bags, Clorox bleach spray, hydrogen peroxide spray, and hydrogen peroxide from a local HEB the evening of the murders, which are all the things criminals usually use to clean up the scenes of murders. Kathy claims that Martin had made threats against her boyfriend, Polly, over a debt of $40,000 from a drug deal that didn't go according to plan. She then goes further to claim that whatever happened was most likely a case of self-defense. Both Polly and Jaden have been extradited back to the US after setting up new lives in Vietnam. Jaden had even gone as far as getting a fiancé in Vietnam. At the time of this video, Kathy is currently under house arrest and awaiting trial. While Kathy may have escaped a murder charge, that's not the case for TikToker Marianne Snow. In January of 2021, the police received a call from a house in Houston, Texas, that someone had just been shot. On getting to the scene, they found 18-year-old Helen Rose Hastings, a friend of Marianne Snow, dead with a bullet through her head. Marianne Snow had shot her, plunging her TikTok empire into darkness and despair, leaving her once adoring followers stunned and horrified by the shocking turn of events. For some backstory, Marianne Snow was known on TikTok as Snow the Salt Queen and Yandir Freak. She started gaining traction on TikTok in late 2020 and had a massive following with about 2 million followers. Her content consisted of lip-syncing videos and cosplay videos, in elaborate costumes and heavily made up. Snow, who prefers to be addressed using they/them pronouns, gained notable recognition for dressing up as characters from the Danganronpa series. Danganronpa is a Japanese video game where teenagers find themselves trapped in a school with a menacing bear, compelled to engage in deadly battles for survival. Exactly like you see in these videos of her from her account. Since that had been a reigning trend around the time from 2020 to 2021, she quickly gained viewership and became a popular name among TikTokers. While famous, she became friends with a lot of other TikTokers and would usually hang out to shoot videos to post on social media and make viral content. This is a common practice with most TikTokers. Things took a turn one particular night when Mary had people over at this house. It was January the 16th of 2021, and she had invited 7 of her friends to host a watch party for a Batman TV show. The night started out quietly, from watching the TV show to making TikTok videos and content for their social media. The crew even indulged in drinking vodka and Coke, and everything was seemingly perfect and going smoothly. In a bid to surprise or terrify her friends, Mary Ann disappeared to the garage sometime during the night and emerged with a Glock handgun. She initially started to boast and make claims that the gun was the same as the weapon used by the villain character the Penguin in the Batman movies, and tried to prove it. She then pulled the trigger, pretending to shoot one of her friends present, but the gun didn't go off despite the trigger making a clicking sound. Encouraged by this, the friends became more comfortable around the gun. Now, what led to the shooting of Helen Rose Hastings? According to Mary, she had walked up to her and placed the gun in the middle of her forehead after Helen had asked her to shoot her in the head. Helen probably thought the gun was empty and felt there was no harm in having the trigger pulled on her because it wouldn't go off. And Mary claimed she thought the magazine was empty since the gun didn't go off the first time. Unfortunately for Helen, the shot was fired and the bullet went through her head. Helen was eventually rushed to the hospital where she died 2 days later from the shooting. The tragic incident not only shattered the lives of those involved, but also raised disturbing questions about the events that led to that fateful moment. The authorities got involved and Mary was brought for questioning. The other witnesses, Mary's friends who were in the house, testified for Mary, saying that the shooting was unintentional and Mary hadn't meant to kill her friend. Helen's parents, on the other hand, had a hard time believing that. They insisted that their child would not willingly ask anyone to shoot her, regardless of whether or not the gun was empty. They suspected that there was some evil intention behind the shooting and that Mary had a motive behind killing their daughter. The mother even submitted that Mary Ann and her friends had enough time to come up with a similar story to tell the cops so that they could absolve Mary of the murder. With no evidence and with witnesses to back up her story, Mary, aka Snow the Salt Queen, was back on the streets of TikTok and posting again.
Graveyard and I've had there's been raves at graveyards, but apparently it's a whole thing.
A few months after the incident though, she started posting a lot of weird stuff that seemed like she was making reference to the incident. The images were almost troubling, like one where she posed with bloody handprints on the wall behind her. That's the sort of thing that had people wondering what really happened and how did the case end up.
Let me walk you through my Jimco wig real fast so that it clears everything up. So this is the listing that I buy part of the wig from. I would suggest
Mary was charged with second-degree manslaughter in January of 2023 after the shooting. Mary has since then gone quiet on all her social media and platforms. She received a lot of backlash after the incident went public, and even worse when she started posting content with reference to the incident. And Snow's trajectory in particular serves as a cautionary tale about the lengths influencers go to create and maintain elaborate social media persona, and the complexities that can arise when the roles they play on social media become almost inextricably linked to the events in real life. Hey, if you found this video interesting, the subscribe button is just around the corner somewhere.